sound of metal striking metal rang out in the crisp morning air as young Samuel Jenkins stirred in his bed. It's Saturday, April 6th, 1912. His eyes blinked open, and he groggily registered the rhythmic clang of a hammer from the blacksmith shop just down the road. He knew who was behind the noise. It was Captain Charles L. Teaney, the blacksmith of Pulaski, and a man with stories that seemed to stretch back as far as the town itself. Samuel hurriedly dressed, eager to visit the shop before breakfast. He dashed down Randolph Avenue and soon arrived at the entrance of the shop. There, beneath the glow of morning light, was Captain Teaney, pounding red-hot iron into shape with a focus that only years of labor and experience could muster. His black and gray hair was matted with sweat under his wide-brimmed hat, but what caught Samuel's attention most was the glint of his Confederate uniform, which he still proudly wore even after all these years. "Morning, Captain," Samuel called, his voice filled with youthful energy. Captain Teaney paused for a moment, straightening up and wiping his brow with a weathered hand. "Morning, lad," he replied with a smile that betrayed the creases of many long years. "Do you ever get tired of hammering, sir?" Samuel asked, stepping closer to watch the flames dance inside the forge. Teaney chuckled softly. "Not when you've been through what I have. Hammering metal feels like child's play compared to some things, boy." Samuel's eyes lit up with curiosity. "Like what, Captain? Tell me one of your stories again. About the war? Or maybe about your cannon?" Captain Teaney rested his hammer on the anvil and gazed out of the open doorway of his shop, his mind wandering back through the years. "Ah, the cannon," he began, his voice softening. "That cannon has more stories than I could ever tell. But it's not just any old hunk of metal. It's a reminder, a relic of times when men had to fight for what they believed in." Samuel sat down on a nearby crate, captivated. "Where did you get it, sir? You didn't say last time." The captain nodded, leaning back against the workbench. "After the war, when I'd come back to Pulaski, I heard there was a cannon just sitting abandoned near Dublin. It was left behind after a battle, but I couldn't just let it rust away. I fixed it up here, in this very shop, put new wheels on it, gave it a good coat of paint. And ever since, that cannon's been part of every celebration this town's ever had." "Is it true you fired it every time the Democrats won an election?" Samuel asked eagerly, remembering one of the stories he'd overheard from the older townsfolk. Teaney grinned. "Every time, until they lost in '96, that is. Had the cannon all ready to fire, but when I went to load it the next morning, someone had beaten me to it. Left a sign hanging on it that read, 'A charge to keep have I.' Still makes me laugh when I think about it." The two shared a quiet laugh, but the moment quickly turned somber. The captain's eyes darkened, and Samuel could see that he had drifted into memories of battles fought and friends lost. "Do you ever think about the war, sir?" Samuel asked cautiously, sensing the change in the captain's mood. Teaney's voice was low now, almost a whisper. "Every day, boy. I lost my brothers at Manassas, right beside me. They were gone in an instant, and I was left bleeding in the dirt. They sent me home after that, said I was no good for the fight. But 6 months later, I went back. I had to. There were too many faces I still remembered, too many promises left to keep." Samuel was quiet, unsure of how to respond. He knew the war had ended long before he was born, but in Captain Teaney's presence, it always felt close, like the ghosts of those long-ago battles lingered in the corners of the blacksmith shop. The captain picked up the hammer again, his hands tightening around the handle. But that's all behind me now. This shop, this town, it's all I've got left. He struck the iron on the anvil once more, the sharp sound echoing in the small room. Every time I hit this metal, it's like I'm hammering away the past, shaping it into something new, something I can live with. Samuel stood up and shuffled his feet. I think it's good you do that, sir. People here, they look up to you. They always say that Pulaski wouldn't be the same without Captain Teaney. The old man smiled again, though this time it was tinged with sadness. Maybe so, boy. Maybe so. As Samuel turned to leave, he glanced back once more at Captain Teaney, now bent over his work, hammering away with the same intensity as always. He realized then that the captain's battles weren't just fought on the fields of Manassas or Petersburg. They were still being fought here, in this very shop, where metal met flame and memories were forged into something more endurable. And as Samuel walked back up the hill toward his house, the distant clang of the blacksmith's hammer followed him, a reminder of the past and the strength it took to carry on.